And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, we are Knights of Camelot, working together cooperatively to try to destroy the forces of evil. But there may be a traitor in our midst, throwing off all of our plans and working for evil. Today we're going to look at a classic co-op game from Days of Wonder, Shadows over Camelot. It's for 3 to 7 players, ages 10 and up, plays in an hour to an hour and a half. Let's check it out and I'll show you how it's played. At the beginning of Shadows of Camelot, everybody is randomly assigned a Knight of the Round Table. So we have like Sir Tristan, we have King Arthur, Sir Palamedes, Sir Gawain, Sir Kay, Sir Galahad, Sir Percival, and all of them have a special ability and it's used as a player aid to help them through their turns. You then take the 8 loyalty cards, shuffle them, and deal them out, 1 for each player. Out of the 8 cards, 7 of them are loyal, 1 of them is a traitor. So depending on the amount of players you have, it gives you different probabilities of whether or not there's going to be a traitor there. You're never 100% certain, but you're always leery of it. There's essentially 7 different quests that you can go on the board. Now let's talk a little bit about the boards and we'll talk about the quests in general. Here we are actually in Camelot, this whole section here where all of our guys have started near the round table, and it includes the sort of siege area here. This is all considered Camelot. There is a quest here, 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 and on the back side of this there's another quest. So we're going to talk about each of those quests, what they're called, how they're played in a little bit of detail here in just a moment. But let's go over how a typical turn works. So each turn has 2 phases. The first phase is the progression of evil, where essentially you can do one of 3 evil things. And pretty much your choices are either drawing one of these black cards, or placing one of these siege engines, or you can hurt yourself by taking your life down 1. So let's just assume that we put the siege engine here and we put the card back here. That's the one we did. And then the second side of your turn is a heroic action. So essentially you're doing 1 bad thing and 1 good thing. Now on your heroic actions you could do a few different things. One is you could move to a new quest. So you can move your guy to any open quest that's available. That's 1 movement. If you're at a quest, you can do a quest specific action, which we'll talk about all those later. You can play a special white card. We're going to talk about some of these white cards here in just a moment. You can heal yourself back, your life points back up 1, or if it's far enough along the game, you could accuse someone of being a traitor. So those are pretty much your options when you're doing your heroic side of action. Now everyone is dealt a Merlin card, a special card, and 5 other white cards. Either of these white special cards, everybody will be holding these in their hand, secret from everybody else. So in this case, we look at the Merlin card here, that's a special card, and this will allow us to remove 1 siege engine, or the last standard black card played on any quest, but if 3 people play Merlin cards, they could cancel a special bad thing that might happen. So this is what they talk about the special cards as one of your actions, is you could use one of these. Any of the other non-special cards, the fight cards there, those are ones that are pretty much used during a lot of the quests. So since there are many quests that you can go to, let's jump into each of those for a little bit and show you how each of those sort of work. Now let's look at the Saxon quest here, the Saxon Wars. Here we see 4 spaces for the Saxons to go and spots to put your cards, and as you notice they're in order 1 through 5. It's essentially laying down a straight of cards. So if I have moved my man to this quest from an earlier turn, because you can only move to a quest, you can't move to a quest and play an action. If I've moved to this quest on an earlier turn and it's my turn again and I would like to play on my heroic side of my action, I wanted to play a card on this quest, I could play a card. In this case, the only one I can play is the 1. So if I had a 1 card, I could play it here. If this 1 card was already there from a previous turn and I was already in this quest, on my turn during my heroic action phase, I could play the 2 card. And you have to go in order, so I could not play the 2 before the 1. They have to sort of go in order. Now, this quest, in order to win it, is you have to do 1 through 5 before 4 Saxons show up. These Saxons show up with some of those black cards that you've seen that put a Saxon on the board like this, and if 4 of them show up, you lose. If you get all 5, you win. These are one of those what they call perpetual quests, is they actually go on all game long. So once this quest is done, it starts anew. Everything gets cleared, the cards get cleared, and this can be another quest to start over. If you do this successfully, you will get 1 white sword on the round table. You will get 4 white cards. These will be split equally between all the people that were here, if there's anybody else, and you get to raise yourself 1 life point. However, if the 4 Saxons show up first, there'll be 1 black sword put on the round table. You would lose 1 life point. Anybody that's here would lose 1 life point, and 2 siege engines go on Camelot. The Picked War quest is exactly the same as the Saxon quest. It's perpetual, same exact thing, 1 to 5 with cards. Instead of picks, it's just Saxons. Instead of Saxons, it's just picks there. So it's played exactly the same, and they pretty much have exactly the same outcomes of good or bad. For the tournament against the Black Knight, it's a solo perpetual quest. Notice there's only 1 spot that someone can be here, so only 1 person can be there. And they really need to have all their cards, because if at any point this person leaves this quest, all the cards they've placed have to leave as well. So you pretty much have to go in there already knowing that you're going to be able to beat it with everything that's in your hand. So when it's their turn, and let's assume that they've already moved to this quest in a previous turn, and what they're trying to do is basically get 2 pair. So on their turn they might throw down a 5, and then it goes through everybody else's turn, and on their next turn they might throw another 5, and they already have 1 pair. Then they'd work on this other pair here, and it has to be a different number set than the 5s. They can't throw 5s again, it progressively has to go. So also here, black cards are going to be getting placed here over as people draw black cards for their evil side of the action, and they'll have points here as well. So this quest ends when either the good knight has placed 2 pair, or the black knight gets 1, 2, 3, 4 black cards here. Once that happens, the quest stops. You add up all the numbers from the knights. On the knights, this one has a 1. You add up all the numbers on the white cards, and if the white cards add up to more than the black cards, the good knights win this quest, otherwise they lose. And they would win a white sword, 3 white cards, and 1 life point. But if the black knight wins, they would get a black sword for the round table and -1 point. The quest for Excalibur is a team quest. If any knights are here from a previous turn, they can choose during their heroic action phase to discard a white card, and when they do that, it brings it 1 step closer to them. If they get the Excalibur already all the way to this side of the island, they win this quest. Now there's black cards that will come up that say Excalibur on them, and if that comes up, they will move it 1 closer to the bad side, and if this sword gets all the way to this side of the island, the quest is over. And for this one, if you win, you get 2 white swords, 7 white cards, and a life point. If you lose, you get 2 black swords, and everybody here loses a life point. Now this is not a perpetual quest. This also gets flipped over. So any other time that Excalibur cards come up after this quest is over, you put a siege engine in Camelot. Now if you did win the quest, that person gets this Excalibur. Whoever played the last card to win this quest gets this Excalibur. What that allows them to do is get basically +1 to any outcome of any of the fight battles. Any of the ones where we're dropping cards and you have to have a higher number, then that adds to that number. And the quest for Lancelot's armor, it's also a solo quest where only 1 person can be here. And on their action, they can drop 1 card on here. You're trying to get basically a full house, 2 of the same, and then 3 of the same, but they have to be different cards. So on his turn, he could drop 1 of these 5s, assuming he was already here. And then on his next turn, when it comes around to his turn, he could drop a second 5, and then on his next turn, he would be trying to drop some of the 3 same things. So he drops 3 runs here. When the black cards come out, they're probably going to be placed here face up. They possibly might get placed face down because it allows that knight to grab a white card. And so this quest ends when either all 5 of these cards from the knight have been put here, or all 5 cards from the black have been put here. When that happens, any of these black cards are turned over, and we're on the Lancelot side. You add all the numbers up from the Lancelot side, and you compare them to all the numbers added up on the white side. If the white numbers add up to a number larger than all the numbers from Lancelot, then you win this quest and get 1 sword, 4 cards, 4 white cards, and a life point. Where if you lose, you get a black sword and minus a life point. You also, if you win it, get Lancelot's armor, which allows you to, on the evil side of the phase, when you, instead of drawing 1 black card, you can draw 2 of them and look at which one you'd like to play. Once the Lancelot armor quest is over, no matter what, it gets done once and then it gets flipped over, and now you're on to the quest of the dragon. And in here, the knight or knights, because there can be more than one person here now, they are trying to do 3 of a kind 3 times. So maybe 3 1s, 3 2s, 3 3s, but they have to be different numbers. So in this case, when it's their turn, if they're already here and it's their turn, they could drop a card here. And they're trying to, again, get 3 of the same number here, 3 of the same number here, 3 of the same number here, but these numbers all have to be different from each other. Now, if you get these 9, whoever gets 9 white cards here first, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 black cards here first, that's when the quest ends. When the quest ends, you add up all the numbers that are on the dragon side, and you add up all the numbers that are on the good side, and if the good side number is larger, they win this quest. If it's tied or lower, they lose this quest. And if they win, they get 2 white swords, 7 cards, white cards, and 2 life points. If they lose, they get 2 black swords and lose 2 life points. So let's talk about accusing the traitor. If on your turn, as your heroic action, you accuse somebody of a traitor, if they are not a traitor and they're loyal, you have to take one of the white swords that are on the table and turn it to black. If it was a traitor, then you can add a new white sword to, let's see, this one was white and they did it, then this one you would get to add a white sword to the table right here. If the game ends and the traitor has not been revealed by anybody, 2 white swords now turn over to their black side. And once a traitor's been revealed, they flip their knight card over and it says traitor, and essentially they get to do one of 2 things. They get to taunt the knights as one of the actions, which is take a white card at random from the hand of the knight of your choice and discard it, or you can help the evil spread, which is adding a siege engine to Camelot or drawing the top black card and playing it. So essentially you're going around to all the different quests, trying to win those quests, assuming you're the loyal knight. And you're putting these swords here, and again, you're trying to win by filling this round table up and having a majority of white swords there. Of course, you could lose if there's 7 or more black swords at any time, or if the last siege engine gets placed, or if everybody dies. So essentially, that's how this game is played. Alright, well there's Shadows of Camelot. So, what I really like about this game, first of all, the components are what you would expect from Days of Wonder, who are just known for amazing production quality. The components are amazing. The miniatures are awesome. No, they're not painted, big deal. At least some of them are actually on the bottom. They're not totally painted, but they're still amazing. They look great. The components feel and look great. The board's amazing. The card's amazing. The artwork's awesome. Production value, huge, just as you'd expect. Excellent. Knocked it out of the park. Now the playing. The cooperative way. This was one of the first co-op games that came out with a traitor or a possible traitor, so it really changed the industry in that respect. Obviously, some games have come out since then to do that sort of thing. And for me, the game is a cooperative game. Now, it has you the first time you play, or if you're playing with new players, to play without a traitor, just to get to know how the game's played. Because if you had never played it before and you were the traitor, you probably wouldn't really understand too much what to do to try to throw off their plans. If you play it with just a co-op game, for me it was just, it was okay. Because you're laying cards down, you're working together, you're holding your cards, you're trying to work together, but at the same time, you're still kind of in separate areas a lot of the times. Now, when you add the possibility of a traitor, which is the way the game is meant to be played, really, I think that one aspect is really what makes this game shine. Because when it's your turn, you're sort of doing your thing, you're talking with others, you're trying to figure out where to go, discreetly trying to figure out, I have these cards, hey, you do too, without exactly saying them. That's always interesting. But what's interesting even more is when it's not your turn. When there's not a traitor and it's not your turn, you're kind of involved, but not as much. When there's a possible traitor involved, you are constantly watching what everybody is doing with total paranoia as to which one of these other ones might be a traitor. And so every move, you're really scrutinizing and you're working backwards in your mind, hey, you kept dropping siege engines there early. Now you're doing this. It seems to not be the best thing. You're not taking a life point when we want you to. And you start to put these things together, so the whole time you're scanning. And to me, that's really how this game really shined for me, is that think of the trader. Of course, when you are the trader, you think everybody knows who you are, and it's a very interesting but stressful but fun feeling to have. So this is it's also good, it's actually a pretty good game for kids. I was just at the Dice Tower Con here in Florida just recently, and I saw a whole family playing this with a couple of kids, and I stood back and watched them play this, and it was cool to watch the kids talk about it and make their decisions, so it can be used as a great family game as well. So if you're looking for a co-op game, you got to get one of these classics, Shadows of a Camelot. You got to add the trader in there and just watch the paranoia set in and the cooperative and not knowing who to trust and things like that. It's a classic for a reason, and it's obviously one that you're going to want to check out.
So much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.